Good day, everybody. Hope you're well. Welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here. We're made it. 3/4 of the season down. We're in the final quarter. Those of you who played football with me, you know, put your fours up, baby. It's that time. We've hit the fourth quarter of the Battleground season, and you know that means it's time to lock in on some of these projections. Take a look at where we're going. Now, before we hop into where we're at, let's go to last season real quick. Let's go back in the Wayback Machine. And here we are last season. So I just wanted to show where it ended last season. Here was our final for the cutoffs in each of these sections, Gamma, Arcane, Quantum, etc. And also just want to show you the comparison of where we were at in the last 48 hours versus where we ended up. Okay. In some instances, it basically held in your C5, C4. Those held to similar what their average rates were. But if, for instance, in Celestial, it was 13 points, but you jumped almost 40 in 2 days. In Mysterium, it was 11, but you jumped almost 40 in 2 days. Quantum, not so much. So just to prepare yourself for those last 2 days, because that makes a big difference in the equation. Last season, 170, 230, 305, 427, 570 Celestial cutoff. Get those numbers back in your head, because this season, it's going to look lower. But what's that last 48 hours going to look like, ladies and gentlemen? We just don't know. Let's move on. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. You see what we've got? We've tracked our 3 markers here. Day 0, day 14, day 21. And then we split that into an average. Here was the average over the first 14 days. And here's the average over the last 7. Now, the good news is you can basically see across the board in the last 7 days, averages have dropped significantly. Now, Gamma and Arcane haven't really, and that makes sense because that's kind of where people come into the GC. And there's just going to be a lot of people in there bumping up some points, keeping the average up. We've seen a pretty substantial drop off in the Quantum Mysterium realm right here. I do theorize, as you look at the big drops here in the Quantum cutoff, Q2, Q1, I do think that's been people pushing for the 200. They get to the 200 and they just stop. That's what they were pushing for. They don't care anymore. And then your Mysteriums, M2, M1, Celestials, etc., kind of hanging in that 9 to 10 range as expected. That's we have a long history of expecting about 10 points a day in those ranges. So all that to say, well, what's it going to look like, Truth? Well, here's what we've got. If we just straight math it out and we say, okay, you're going to keep your average for the next 7 days, this is what we're going to be looking at. Okay? You got your Gamma, you got your Q2s and Q1s. Right, your Mysterium is kind of more where I focus, Celestial, your 350, your 490, but that does not account for what we just looked at the beginning, those last 48 hours. And so what I did here in this projected, and this is, I want to know, my minimum suggested stopping point right now. The minimum I suggest you push to, if you're going to try to find a spot and park, go find this number, try to get a little bit past it, and then let's wait and see, because I do expect these to still be on the low side of many of these cutoffs. The way the projected cutoffs math is basically I said, okay, you're going to get 5 days of your average, and then for your last 2 days, you're going to get double average. And that's what this number maths out to. So that brings you more up to the 130 here in Gamma. Probably won't see necessarily that big double at the end because there's not going to be a lot of Gamma people pushing. Arcane is more realistic. Quantum, Q2, Q1, I think you're going to see these types of things actually climb, though. You're going to see some pushes in these realms. And then you get to the big one, right, where we get the Mysterium cutoffs. You're going to have this roughly 370. Now, remember, last season, it was significantly more than that. It was 430. So a 60-point difference between seasons is unlikely. It's probably going to be higher than that. I added the M2 and M1, unlike last season. Then same thing in Celestial. 515. I've been telling people probably get to 520, 530. But even then, last season was 570. So I don't know that we're going to hold there. The C5, C4, I think those are reasonable numbers for people to look at. We'll know as we get closer. And then I highlighted these in orange, yellow, whatever you see, because C1 through 3 do not operate like any of the rest of the classes. Right? They move at their own pace. It's completely different compared to how the other groupings move. And so we'll just kind of keep an eyeball and see how that stuff goes. So that's going to wrap up today's projection. I do have one more note for you, and that is, if you are not participating in the 4th of July sales that are breaking out in a mere 26 hours from now, you want to make your push today, because not only are these numbers likely to climb, but we know decks are going to get out of control based on the sales. Now, I would expect there's going to be a minimum of 4 available rank 4s. Realistically, probably more like 6 to 8. So if you're not going to participate, push now, push hard, get as far as you can go. And remember, the estimates for the last 48 hours are kind of just double the averages, but people are going to be getting new toys, and they're going to want to be playing with those new toys. And so I think it's entirely reasonable that we're going to see cutoffs right in line with where they were last season, because I think that it's entirely possible that the last 48-hour push is going to be bigger than usual, with it being in the midst of an event. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have questions, leave me a comment, ping me, hit me in the Discord, hit me online. I wish you all the best in your grind. If you got any specific questions, we can help. But until next time, peace.